if your whole job, right, if you are an investigator, if you aren't a trained observer, as was mentioned, and you are so creative that you get a leaf blower and some solo cups because you are that determined and passionate about your job and figuring out solving this crime, and you miss red tail light with your leaf blower and your cups, you might need a new profession. It might not be for you.
Now, if you're not ready, then go ahead and tell me you're not ready.
I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives.
In other words, the car didn't hit him, and he wasn't hit by the car.
I'm not a lawyer, but
are y'all keeping up?
I'm not a lawyer, but
the debrief.
Hello, welcome to another episode of I'm Not a Lawyer, but
the debrief.
I'm not a lawyer. My name is Melanie. Okay. And I'm not a lawyer, but I keep up with all things legal when and where I can, trials, lawsuits, all the things. And I recap them on the many platforms I have, including this podcast. And I'm joined by my co-host,
Gooseberry. How y'all doing?
And we are so excited to be here and to continue our coverage of the Karen Reed trial, as well as a couple other things that we have been talking about.
Yeah.
People are saying this, so I'm going to include it. Tomorrow is my birthday, and I need 2 seconds. Tomorrow is my birthday, which I'm very excited about. By the time this episode comes out, it would have been the day before because it's on Thursday. But in addition to that, I made my very first I'm Not a Lawyer, but video on June 7th, 2023. So we are just about a year into this new journey of mine.
That's what's up.
I just hit 600,000 followers on TikTok.
That's all right.
I am slowly inching my way towards 20 subscribers on YouTube, which I am very excited about. I am being very intentional about that platform and trying to build it. I'm a little slow on Instagram, amen. But we also have this podcast, which is doing okay.
Yeah.
It is doing okay. We got some people watching. We got some comments. And so anyway, all of that to say, thank you for joining. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Please tell people if you like us. Please leave us comments. Do all the things. Share all of that because we are thankful and happy to have you. So that said, let's get into the first segment of this podcast, which is called Mel's Mini Bar.
I would also like to say I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. You know, doing random things, getting laid off, having kids, and then making a platform.
Being a wife.
That part. Okay, so the first segment is Mel's Mini Bar, and I want to talk about something that I don't know if I asked you if you know what this is. Did I ask you? Okay, do you know the purpose of a grand jury?
I always thought a grand jury was like the final, if something happens on the lower level, court level, and they can't make a decision, they send it to the grand jury.
Oh, interesting.
To say, yes, pursue this. Or this is worthy of more investigating.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's actually very interesting. And the reason that I wanted to, which to be fair, I for a long time did not know what grand jury was. Okay. You hear it a lot. And it was brought up last week because CNN was reporting that there are witnesses being brought or expected to be brought in front of the grand jury for the Diddy trial, for the Diddy case, okay, for the Diddy allegations. And so a lot of people hear grand jury and don't really understand, even in Karen Reed. Sometimes they talk about when you were in front of the grand jury, when you were in front of like they mentioned grand jury.
Yep.
And I didn't know, again, for a long time what it actually meant. And so I thought it would be good to talk about what it is. And somebody in our Patreon, Terrence, is absolutely right, which is grand jury is the beginning. It's the prosecute. What happens is that when the prosecutors are bringing forth, right, gathering all the evidence and they're doing their investigation, they present what they have. Witnesses will testify in front of a grand jury, and the grand jurors will then vote on if that person or persons should be indicted.
Oh, well,
so it's actually before.
It's before.
It's before. Exactly. And so when you think about in the context of Diddy as an example, and I'm not saying 100%, I'm just, again, an example. We know that there's these lawsuits. We know that there was this raid. Then we know this video leaked, right? It's all these pieces of what is clear to many people that an investigation is taking place.
Yeah.
When you start hearing grand jury, that indicates that the prosecutors feel like they have done the investigation, and they are now ready to present to the grand jurors to say, hey, this is who we want to charge. This is what we want to do. And here is everything. And then they say, you know what, you should go ahead and charge them.
Now, my question is this with every case? Like, any type of jury case? Because the P. Diddy case is just, it's a high profile case. Karen Reed is high profile.
Well, that and Diddy is going to be federal. So it's a federal grand jury.
So
Karen Reed is not federal, obviously. It's just the state.
Oh, okay.
Or
so
Commonwealth.
You got a federal grand jury.
You have a federal grand jury when it's a federal case.
And you just have a grand jury.
And then you just have a grand jury.
So YSL.
So YSL, there was before those charges were brought against those people, it was presented in front of a grand jury. And the thing about a grand jury is that it is very secretive, essentially, right? Like, these are people, you don't know who they are. And that is for the protection even of the defendant, right? Because they have to present, and the grand jury is going to say, you don't have enough, or absolutely charge them folks. And so they meet in some places, I think it's a monthly cadence. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 times a month. If you have a county like Fulton, it may be many times if there are a lot of charges, constantly being brought about. And so they meet on this cadence, and then they get presented evidence, and then they vote.
So the grand jury is made up of what? Regular citizens, or is the grand jury people with legal backgrounds?
So I've actually read a few things about the grand jury. So I've read that they can be selected from a volunteer pool. I've read that they can be selected from a judge's recommendation. I've read that it is people who have either served as a trial juror before, and or people who are registered to vote. And as long as you're registered to vote, you could be called. When you are selected, you stay for, I've seen, between 12 and 24 months. So it's a consistent, right, group of people who are meeting for this range of time, and like handling or voting on the charges that are being brought about. So we have a person in the Patreon who is saying, in my experience for New York City, it was about 15 everyday people, and we were there for 2 weeks and were presented many cases. So he served on a grand juror, and that was his experience. So again, I've read that it can range who the people are. I've read that it can vary. Maybe it varies per city, per county, per state. I don't know. But yeah, I thought that, again, it seems like there's a lot of nuance. So I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not going to speak to the specifics of all of the nuance. But as far as process, I think it's important. And I think I would be curious if a lot of people know what what a grand jury does, because you hear it a lot of times in just like trial and legal talk. You hear it. And anyway, I just thought it would be a interesting topic to cover.
I honestly thought
the
grand jury was like a group of selected individuals that were served a term, and they were sitting in some office, and they're like, call the grand jury, and all 12 will come out, and they'll make their decision until they're called again.
Yeah.
But in reality, they're just jurors.
Exactly.
that are
They get the
in,
pretrial.
yeah, they're in secret. They're never known.
Right. Right. Good. I'm happy that you feel informed about something.
That's some
I'm
good
not a
info.
lawyer, but look at me teaching the folks.
Yeah.
If you have been on a grand jury or you are an attorney and want to talk more, feel free to leave your comments in the comment. Leave your thoughts or whatever you have to say in the comments, because like I said, I think a lot of people don't know, and I think it's just interesting. I think it's important when you understand process, when you again, the Diddy case in particular, because we are watching this happen, right? Every week we are, or not every week, but over time we are getting Tony Baker, over time we are getting updates. And so understanding the process of what is happening and where we are in the process. So speaking of,
I would have loaned the 5,000.
Hello. Marilyn, call us, girl. We got you. Speaking of Canton and a cover up happening in a town.
Oh my goodness.
Let's move on to Karen Reed.
These logs, these past few days are just, they're logging the information in, and they're letting us know verbatim, just log after log.
This is the typical part of trial.
Window after window, piece of glass after piece of glass, how big it is, how small it is.
When people are like, I can't believe you watch trials all day, this is what they're talking about. Because we're in the like boring-ish, because I think some stuff happened today that didn't get boring. But sometimes they have to go through all of this stuff to like set it up. And so that's a little bit of what we are in. There are some parts that I think are interesting and worth noting, obviously. So we are going to talk through those. And it was a short week. Like there's not a ton. Last week they didn't have trial basically the whole week except Monday, I think, or Tuesday. And then this week, they didn't have trial yesterday, which was Tuesday. They have it today. They're going to have it tomorrow, but it's a half day, and then no trial on Friday. So really what we have to talk about is a recap from Monday, is what we're going to go through. So the first person to talk through was a Lieutenant Kevin O'Hara. He worked for CERT, which is basically the search and rescue team for the state police, right? So police do what they do, and then they call these people to do like a more thorough search after like an initial search has been done. And so this Lieutenant Kevin O'Hara was brought out or called out to do, him and his team were called out to do this search. They do evidence searches, they do missing people, missing person searches, etc. And so in his search, I meant to get the video. I meant to get the clip. Let me find, the picture. In his search, this is the day, it's the 29th.
Yep.
Okay, so
in the evening, though.
In the evening, because if you remember, John O'Keefe is found outside of 34 Fairview around 6 a.m.
6 a.m. Yep.
And after that happens, there are some officers on the property.
They're Good and Lank and Gallagher.
Yep. They get some solo cups and they get some blood, and they did their search, and that's all they found.
With the blower.
With the leaf blower. So they do their search, and all they find is these like specks of blood in this red solo cup, right?
And the glass, the drinking glass.
And the drinking glass.
And they found it on the ground level. So it was dirt underneath these items.
Right.
All right. And the snow wasn't even that much snow at the time that they were searching.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
after they found what they found, and they figured, they left the scene and left it unguarded, untaped off. It was, anybody could come and tamper with the area.
And so after that happens, fast forward to later in the afternoon, who am I talking? Kevin O'Hara gets the call from Lieutenant Tully to get his team and come out to 34 Fairview. So I'm going to play this clip really quick to just kind of set us up.
Lieutenant Tully had informed us that the victim in this case was struck by a vehicle. He believed there would be broken pieces of taillight in the area. He also stated the victim was missing his sneaker. So he asked us to search for both of those items.
This guy looks like he needs some sleep.
Oh my gosh, hilarious.
That's just one thing. He looks very bad. He looks like he hasn't got any sleep whatsoever. But anyway,
so I call that out because what's interesting is that they arrive to this location and are told what to look for. And voila, magic, they find exactly those things.
Yes.
We want you to search for a shoe, and we want you to search for some tail light. And then we find a shoe and a tail light. Mind you, this area had already been searched. Had already been searched.
In thinner snow
conditions.
Yeah, it wasn't even that much snow.
When they come, it's dark.
Yep, it does.
And
the
when
sun
the people
is dropping.
who searched the first time, the sun was coming up.
Yes.
It's daytime. It's less snow. And all they find is specks of blood on the snow. Hours later, we find red. Mind you, snow is white. And they find red.
Chunks of it.
Chunks of red tail light and a shoe.
And then clear tail light. So
yeah, the clear one was more challenging.
I'm just saying, that's what I would say. I would say clear is way more challenging to find, especially if you have more snow.
Yeah.
Now it should be really hard to find.
And actually, so this is some clips of, some pictures. If you're watching, they presented to the jury, obviously, what they found. So the first picture, it's smaller, and then we kind of zoom in. So the flagpole is there, kind of in the background of this picture, and you can't really see it in the first picture. You kind of see it right on the second picture, and then the third one, you see it more definitively, is the red, a piece of the red tail light. And this is up close. This is a piece of the red tail light. And while they're out there, they find 6 to 7 pieces of tail light. Okay, that's how many they find. This is the shoe. So the shoe is up on the curb, okay, of the house. And the picture on the right is the closer view of the photo that's on the left, if you're watching. So yeah, they end up finding this black and white sneaker. But so tell me, do you feel like this is easy to miss? If it's on the curb and he testified that it was like buried kind of in snow.
When the first guys came out there to search,
yeah,
that shoe would have been visible. That's all. I mean, that it would have been visible.
Yeah.
Because of what you're seeing now. I mean, the shoe would have been on top of the snow.
That's true.
It wouldn't have been covered like that.
No,
now,
right.
obviously, after several hours of snow, it would have been covered the way they have it covered.
Yeah.
That's a lot of snow.
It is a lot of snow. And this is more pieces of tail light. So if you're watching again, the pictures on the outer of this slide are the clear tail light pieces that was found.
Okay, I can see it.
And then the one in the middle is more of the red. But you see, the clear is, I get it. If it was all clear tail light, you would get a pass. That is challenging to see. The red, I just feel like would stand out. And if you are looking for, if you were walking by, maybe I would agree and understand that you missed it, right? But if you are searching and you miss red in a sea of white, that's a little hard to believe.
That is hard to believe. Looking at it, it sticks out.
Yeah.
Sore thumb. And then again, there was not that much snow.
And it wasn't that much snow yet.
Because if y'all remember on when they had the picture of the blower, they were out there blowing, you could see the ground.
Yep. As
they were searching the first time. And this, yeah.
It's just, and the other thing to remember, to the point you're making, is that they had the leaf blower. The whole point was to blow the snow. And when he sat on that stage, he said, and the leaf blower surprisingly worked really well.
Yep.
It was blowing all the snow. It helped us so much.
Yeah. To be honest with y'all, the leaf blower is probably the only method to do that type of job.
Come on, tell us about it.
In snow. I mean, if you have different levels of blowing capacity, if there's a low, medium high.
Yeah.
Set it on low and it'll take off layers instead of going straight down deep, because the way they said they did it was with shovels.
Right.
And to me, a shovel will accidentally break something, or you might scoop something up and not know it's in the shovel and toss it.
Yeah.
So the blower is probably a better idea. So here, as you see, you would have seen
it.
the pieces of tail light.
Yeah. And if you didn't, maybe this isn't the job for you. Like, if your whole job, right, if you are an investigator, if you aren't a trained observer, as was mentioned, and you are so creative that you get a leaf blower and some solo cups because you are that determined and passionate about your job and figuring out solving this crime, and you miss red taillight with your leaf blower and your cups, you might need a new profession. It might not be for you.
We need to start a business and start investigating search parties like this, but we will only hire women.
Hello?
Because
we are the best investigators.
Every video, every picture, every piece of evidence that was discovered and baggaged was done terribly.
It was.
All these pictures are boo-boo.
Yeah.
Women will make sure, hold up, let's do it from the street. Let's do it from this side. Let's do it from this side. Matter of fact,
there's some men who might be good.
Put your hand down. Let's make sure we compare the size of the item. Women will make sure them men was out there. All right, click.
Well, that's because they was trying. It was a cover up.
Well,
they was intentionally trying to mess.
That's true too.
All right, let me play this next clip, which is a timeline of when O'Hara gets the call to come out to 34 Fairview. Okay. So again, it is the day has happened. John has went to the hospital. We are hours later, and now this search crew is headed out there, and this is the timeline of how that happened, and we'll talk about why it's important, or why it seems to be important.
Your testimony is, oh, and by the way, the personnel status report, you'd agree with me, has everybody except for you and Beausoleil showing up at 5 p.m. on January 29th of 2022, does it not?
Yes, it does, sir.
And it has you and Beausoleil showing up 5 minutes before that at 4:55 p.m. on January 29th, correct?
Correct.
But it's your testimony that when you got there, it was just you and Beausoleil, correct?
Correct, sir.
Which actually would be consistent with the personnel status report, right?
Yes, sir.
Because that has you two showing up first as well, right?
Yes, sir.
And then your testimony is that other members didn't show up until between 5:20 and 5:24 p.m.?
Trooper Bearden arrived at 5:21. Sergeant Luis and Sergeant O'Brien arrived at 5:24. Trooper Viscardi showed up at 5:34. Sergeant Carrier showed up at 5:41.
Okay, and so the last member of your team, which is, again, Carrier?
Carrier, correct, sir, 5:41.
He showed up at 5:41, and now your team was all there, correct?
Yes, sir.
So is it your testimony that you did not meet up as a team somewhere and head to 34 Fairview? You all arrived individually?
That's correct, sir.
Did every single trooper who arrived have their own cruiser?
Yes, they did, sir.
Lieutenant Tully directed you to an area where he said that John O'Keefe's body was found, correct?
He directed us to where he believed the vehicle involved had been parked and to where the victim's body was recovered.
All right, so again, in answer to my question, he did direct you to an area where he believed the victim's body was found, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Here, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but here's a couple things that's important about that testimony. Number one, when the call initially came into O'Hara and he was like ready to go, he testified that he didn't get the okay to actually go. They kept being delayed.
Yep.
And he also said we had to shovel because it was snowing. So our team was shoveling our actual driveway so that we can leave. But there was some delay before he could actually go out to 34 Fairview. Okay. What he said is, I think the last person showed up at 5:41 from his team to 34 Fairview. What I'm trying to understand, and I think it is happening today, Remember, her car, Karen's SUV, got towed to the Sally Port.
Yep.
And there's allegedly some missing camera footage from the Sally Port.
Yep.
That timing of the missing footage, in my mind, I'm not a lawyer and I don't know, has to be before the time that the last person, whoever that is, got to 34 Fairview, because the implication is that the car was at the Sally Port, they was jacking up the light, and that's the missing footage, and one of the people took the light out there. But how would that happen? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a little bit, I don't know. This timing is a little weird to me. When here's the question I'm asking: when could have the lights been planted?
The lights could have been planted anytime after Gallagher, Good, and Link left the scene. Whenever they picked that car up, they could have tampered with it and then laid it out and then called old boy. And as they were calling, I said old boy, O'Hara, as they're calling him, they could have been out there sprinkling it around, or O'Hara them already had it, and that's why then they get out there before the team. They could have put it out there before the team.
He was the first.
Yeah. There's
I'm just
at
trying to
any time they could have planted any
Okay.
pieces of that tail light.
Okay.
When it gets to the Sally Port, though, that's where
Were they taking more of the light? You know what I'm saying?
I would say more. I would say they were taking more, or to your point, that's when they took all the pieces and then
because they eventually find more.
Oh, they end up. Oh, okay.
Right. Remember?
Yep.
So on January 29th, the day
more.
after all of this happens, they find 6 to 7 pieces. Over the next month, they find 41 more pieces.
They found 41 more pieces
over the next month. So maybe at the Sally Port, the footage is missing. They were taking more and then they were just preparing to plant it. I don't know. What I assumed, and this is just me speaking here, obviously, but like that timing, the delay in allowing them to come to 34 Fairview felt like it was leading up to this big match of the missing footage. But if they were out at 34 Fairview, he said, I think at 4 something, he got to the scene at 4:56 and left at 6:15. And the missing footage is between 5:08 and 5:50.
5:08
and 5:50. That's the missing camera footage, allegedly, supposedly. Today they're showing the footage, but yeah.
Okay, so they got enough pieces to where they could sprinkle, and then they went back to really make it concrete, like it happened here. Look at all of these pieces, which they probably overdid it.
That's what I agree.
Why put so many pieces out there?
Many pieces?
That's
even when you're at home and you break a glass, right? Even when it goes into small pieces, you generally are able to find most of the pieces.
Yeah.
In that moment, you know, like maybe a couple days later, you're like, shoot, I stepped on a tiny piece of glass, but it's not 41 pieces.
Yes. So they find 6 pieces, but to find, to your point, 41 more extra pieces
on different days. It's like,
41.
Day 7, they're out there. Oh, we found more pieces. Okay, cool. But then day 10, it's like, oh my gosh, we found way more pieces. And then on day 31, it's like, we found more. And it's like, okay, y'all should do a clear search today. Search everything. Why y'all keep finding more pieces?
We all seen car wrecks. We've seen pictures of car wrecks as well. When a tail light is broken, usually most of the tail light is still intact with the car.
Yeah.
You rarely see a tail light shatter into all those pieces like that. Somebody they went overboard,
That's how
overkill,
it feels.
and they shouldn't have put 41 more extra
Just
pieces
like,
out. All you needed was 2
nothing to do today. Let me put
pieces.
some more. Let me drop some over there.
All you needed was 2 pieces, man.
Yeah. Okay.
I also feel like you
Oh,
can
you want to play the video?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I also feel like for a tail light to break, you have to, man, it has to hit you pretty hard. A human body, it man, it had to hit your head. It's not hitting your arm, it's not hitting your leg, it's hitting your head or literally your knee cap or your elbow. Because we done hit baseballs into car lights.
Mm-hmm.
You done bats, you seen women, well, just not women.
Hello?
You seen people, I'm gonna edit that out. People hit cars with baseball bats, and the tail light would just like it'll crack. It won't just burst like a bubble. So this is a video.
Well, and somebody just commented, is a human body hard enough to break a tail light?
No, it's not, man.
And so we're gonna play this video.
200. Get the fuck out of my game.
Okay. Well,
Can we do it slow? Is
I don't
there
know if that's possible. We should have recorded it slow. I'll go one more time, but
Let's
I
see.
don't think.
Running like a little.
Whoa! 200. Sorry.
200. Get the fuck out of my game.
Seems to be fine.
Yeah.
But you all see this impact? That car is slingshots itself around and hits this young man. I mean, at a good speed.
A high speed.
That car didn't have that tail light. It's just fine. And if you want to, get on YouTube, get on IG, and look at, man, they had so many of these videos of these kids getting towed up by these cars. It's hilarious.
I said trigger warning. You said hilarious.
Because they keep doing it.
Okay.
They keep running around these cars as
people
they
are saying, did
doing
he hit
donuts.
the light in that video though? Like, was his body connecting with the light?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you know what? To me, it looked like he hit the light.
Okay.
To me, it looked like even if it didn't hit the light, the car didn't seem like it took any damage. Period.
Yeah.
The bumper, nothing fell off. It was just like it bumped him and went on by his way. So my point from that video is it would take so much for a car light to break.
And in that many pieces.
That many pieces, yes.
Considering
in that short distance
Yeah.
that she hit him in, and in the weather that they were in, for her to pick up that much speed to hit this man.
Well, and they never claimed that she was going 90. Like, that has never been. I mean, you're reversing in a neighborhood. So, it's
come on. And I want to say this. When you're on the highway and you see car wrecks, usually when the glass impact or whatever, it's usually within like the same circumference. Like you see the glass in a certain diameter of the wreck.
Right.
The glass isn't
everywhere
10 feet down this way or 10 feet down that way. So my point is, if they found 6 pieces here, all 41 extra pieces would have been in the same vicinity of that 6.
That actually
of
goes
those 6
right into the next clip that I want to play, because Yannetti seems to be implying that, but it also feels like a setup. What we love, right, about this defense team is that they set you up and they give breadcrumbs to whatever they know is coming. And so this video feels like a setup that hasn't paid off yet, but I'm sure it will. So, and it goes to exactly what you were just saying.
So I'd like to ask you a few questions about your observations about where these items were found in relation to each other. Was there a piece of red plastic located on the roadway left of the flagpole when you look at the house from the street?
Left of the flagpole, yes, sir.
All right. Given your testimony about these items essentially being in the same area less than a foot away from each other, it could not be true then that from that red piece of plastic that was found in the street, that 3 feet south of that was a black Nike sneaker found under the snow. That couldn't have happened, correct?
Well, I don't know where the distance between the objects as far as the mapping purposes, sir, but as far as how far apart, the first thing we discovered was one red piece of plastic, and then further south, that's when we found the sneaker and additional pieces.
Right, but again, they were all in the same area, less than a foot apart, correct?
The same general area, but could have been over a foot, sir. I'd have to measure between the GPS markings.
Is your testimony today that what you testified to in that prior proceeding, where everything was less than a foot apart, that wasn't accurate?
Best recollection that they were close within around a foot, but to be 100% accurate, you would have to measure between the 2 GPS points, which I have not done.
If it's less than a foot, then by definition, the sneaker couldn't have been found 3 feet south of where that red piece of plastic was, correct?
Yeah, and I don't know if that's accurate, sir.
You don't know what's accurate?
Well, you're saying 3 feet. I don't know if that's accurate, sir.
No, that's what I'm asking you. Is it accurate?
I don't know, sir. I'm not sure the exact distance. I didn't measure the GPS marking, sir. I'm not.
All right.
I don't know. I didn't know where you came up with that number 3 feet, sir.
I'm just asking questions.
Okay.
Well, I'm just asking questions. Was there a clear piece of plastic that was found a few feet south of that black sneaker?
There was a piece of clear plastic found just past the sneaker.
A few feet south of the sneaker?
I don't know where you're getting that from, sir.
Again, you don't have to worry where my questions are coming
So,
from.
Mr. Yannetti, no comments. Next
Sure.
question.
I wouldn't think it was that far of a distance. They were much closer than that.
Right. I mean, you say you don't know the distance, but you testified to what the distance was in that prior proceeding, did you not?
Objection.
Next question, please.
I don't agree on those distances, no, sir.
No. Okay.
So what it sounds like to me that he's alluding to is somebody has testified that the tail light and the shoe and the distance between them was 3 feet. And this guy has already said that they were in the same vicinity and they were less than 1 foot apart. Somebody has testified that they were feet away. I don't know who, but somebody did it.
Everybody, for some reason, cannot recall what they testified
Oh my gosh.
to the grand jury when they did.
And it was the federal one.
And he calls them on it. To your point, he sets them up.
Yep.
So how long was the distance? It was 3 feet. He might have testified and said 1 foot, but he's trying to catch them up.
And he like, why you keep saying 3 feet?
Yeah.
That don't matter. Was it 3 feet or was it not? How close was it? But why you keep asking me about 3 feet? You asking the wrong. I'm asking the questions. Answer what I asked you. That's why I like this team.
But then he says I didn't do any measurements. Blase. But your job is to do this.
Right.
This is what you
Yeah.
specialize in this.
Had you taken the measurements, you wouldn't be guessing right
If
now.
he was a woman,
Oh my gosh.
she would have been like, it was 3 feet from the shoe. It was 4 feet from the
Yeah.
from the white tape, and it made a triangle shape if you would have connected all 3 pieces. Man.
I just want to highlight this comment from the Patreon really quick. It's from Michelle Williams, and she says, I adjust insurance claims and I don't see broken lights and pedestrian accidents, which is very interesting and goes again to the point.
I'm telling y'all, those headlights and those tail lights do not break like that.
Yeah.
You're not breaking. You're not shattering. You know what? I'm going to go to a pull apart. Do they have pull aparts in California?
I don't know.
I'm going to pay for a tail light.
And you're going to do
and I'm
going
to hit a bat. I'm going to take a bat.
See if it'll break.
I played baseball. I
Do
know how
it.
to swing it.
Hello.
And we're going to see how many pieces this thing shattered into.
Do it. Okay, the next person up was Maureen Hartnett, and she was a forensic scientist. And she examines evidence for biological fluid like blood, hair, and stuff like that. So the story, how she fits into the story is that on February 1st, okay, remember this, John O'Keefe is found January 29th. Mm-hmm. So February 1st, she goes to the Sallyport to analyze Karen's car. And again, she is analyzing and looking for things like biological fluid, like blood, hair, things like that. And she also analyzes John O'Keefe's clothing.
Yes.
So this is the first time in the trial that we actually get to see his clothing. Remember, we have heard tons about his clothes, but this is the first time we actually see the clothes. So I'm going to play a clip from Hartnett's testimony about What she found on Karen's vehicle,
Mm-hmm.
we'll start there. I'll quickly say in her testimony, it's really hard to see in this photo, but if you're watching on the right is a piece of glass. It's like 1, 2 on the like middle groove, I guess maybe is what you would call that, is a piece of glass. So she's saying when she was analyzing the vehicle, she found that piece of glass and she also found a piece of hair. And again, like I was saying, she analyzed the clothing, John O'Keefe's clothing. And actually, let me just play that next clip because that'll go to that.
I noted there were scratches in that area. That is a picture of the apparent hair I noted in the area. That's the damage I noted on the rear door. I examined the apparent hair from the vehicle as well as the broken taillight. I determined the hair was consistent with the human hair with a root. It was told to me that potentially the victim may have been bitten by a dog during an incident. So I was taking swabs of that area to be sent out to determine if there's any dog DNA on that area. We use the UC Davis Veterinary Lab in California.
So the first thing to even note, though, is she did this on the 29th, on the 1st of February.
Mm-hmm.
Who at that point was saying he got bit by a dog?
That's what surprised me, because ain't nobody said anything to help O'Keefe out at all. It's all been, he's been hit by a car.
Yeah. That early, I don't know that this theory about the dog was even raised. Why would it have been?
That's true.
It's so interesting that she called that out. I that part was so confusing, but
Who
okay.
would tell her though?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They hadn't gotten their lie together. I don't know. That was just really weird that she would call out that she had maybe, and again, this is February 1st that she is doing this. So this is 2-3 days after. Okay, so then in her testimony, she goes through his clothing, John O'Keefe's clothing, and there is a cut directly down all of his clothing, and that is because the clothing was cut off. So that didn't happen, obviously, before he got to the hospital. This is the doings of the medical professionals trying to get his clothing off. However, what is noteworthy is that there are some very distinct and specific holes or rips in his clothing, punctures in his clothing. As regular people, okay, who are registered to vote and are sometimes summoned for jury duty, you want me to how do you reconcile this hole in his clothing, this puncture, very clear disruption to the fabric of his clothing? How do you reconcile that with getting hit by a car?
You don't. You can't. Once they say he was not shot by anything, he was not stabbed, but there was a dog involved. That's a dog bite.
How do you do? Where does your mind go? How I would be like, wait, what? Y'all want me to believe what? Because look at these holes.
Unless, man,
it's so weird.
I'm still trying to put it together as if Karen did it.
Exactly.
Like, okay, what could that be?
Yes.
That's a screwdriver. Did she stab him with a screwdriver?
Oops.
That's the only other situation.
That makes no sense.
Yeah.
It just makes no sense. Yeah. It doesn't compute. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And so, okay, so then here are his clothing, right? His shirt that he had up under that sweater. And I think she tested these stains, right? And confirmed that they had blood. Which, again, my mind just goes to the way that they have discussed how he looked. His eyes were bulging. His eyes were big. We've seen a quick image of his arm that was cut up, which if he had this hoodie on, right? And now you see these punctures to this hoodie and his arm is cut up. Again, it just doesn't line up to being hit by a vehicle that was reversing at 25 miles an hour. Like I can't even, it doesn't make sense.
And there were no scars, wounds on his legs.
Right.
You all have fallen off your bike.
Sure.
Scuffed it up. while you're wearing jeans or whatever you're wearing, and your skin will tear through your jeans and not even tear your jeans.
Mm-hmm.
If you get hit and drugged by a vehicle, wouldn't you believe his legs would have been damaged in some type of shape or form? Like,
well, it was an SUV, so it sits high.
they still say he was hit and drugged.
They did say he was drugged.
Yes.
You're right. His body was.
His legs would have.
I don't know.
His knees, something would have been scarred up.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and those holes in his shirt wouldn't have came from pebbles on the ground.
No.
Those are straight puncture wounds. And to your point, what tax-paying citizen would think otherwise? if it's not a gun wound, a bullet wound, a stab wound, and you had to stab him with a Phillips head screwdriver, something narrow like that hole was. That was, come on, or a dog bit you.
Right.
Bit him. Yeah.
The other thing, and I'm going to play this next clip, is imagine somebody telling you to your face that they walked out of a grown adult person telling you that they walked out of a house and completely missed a body laying in the yard directly next to them. And then they drove their car right past that same lawn and completely missed a body of a grown man, 6'2", I think.
Big boy.
Laying with these clothing on, jeans,
Mm-hmm.
a gray hoodie, an orange shirt, a missing shoe. So the white sock was probably seen. And completely missing it.
And then to know that they were supposed to be there. So you're like, dang, why didn't O'Keefe come inside? Or where did it, you're not walking outside just oblivious. You're like, hey, I wonder where they went,
Yes.
So
I
can.
It's crazy.
Their excuse might be because they were drunk. Everybody was drunk and we didn't see
They
it.
had to be out of their minds.
That's the only.
They had to be.
And the dog probably was drunk too.
But they all drove. Everybody was driving.
They all admit to driving
it's
drunk.
Not like they were Ubering.
They were all driving drunk that night.
All right, let me play the next one.
The dent that you noted and photographed. You made no conclusion.
Testimony that when you got there, it was just you and Beausoleil, correct?
Correct, sir.
Which actually
Sneaker.
wasn't.
Parent area to be sent out to determine if there's in California.
The dent.
So this is cross-examination from Karen's team, obviously, still with this forensic scientist who did all of this analysis and found this glass on the car, this hair on the car, as well as analyzing John O'Keefe's clothing.
That you noted and photographed. You made no conclusion that that occurred as a result of a motor vehicle pedestrian incident, correct?
That's correct.
The scratches, and I'm just going to go through a couple of them. The scratches that you denoted and had photographed, you made no conclusions about that having anything to do with a motor vehicle pedestrian incident, correct?
That's correct.
Even the broken taillight. At that point, you made no conclusions or drew no scientific conclusions about that having anything at all to do with a motor vehicle pedestrian incident, correct?
That's correct.
You did, however, look for tissue, human tissue, blood, biological material, and things of that nature on the car itself. Did you not?
Yes, I did.
In that review, I think you testified that you saw nothing that suggested the transfer of human tissue to the vehicle, correct?
I did not see any visible stains or tissue on the vehicle.
You were told, Ms. Hartnett, that there were scratches on one of the extremities of John O'Keefe, correct?
That's correct.
Were you shown a photograph of those scratches to assist you in your visual review or examination of that vehicle?
Not at that time, no.
To this date, have you seen a photograph of his arm and the injuries to his arm?
Yes, I have.
Your Honor, if I may, if we have it, was there anything in your, by the way, did you look at all around the vehicle 360 degrees?
Yes, I did.
Did you see anything that was suggestive of or consistent with the pattern of injury that you see to Mr. O'Keefe's right arm?
I wouldn't say I'm qualified to make any kind of pattern determination and what would match the injuries on his arm.
So the answer to my question is, as you sit here, you made no observation of anything on the SUV that matched these injuries, correct?
I wouldn't be able to testify from that from memory. I don't have a photograph of the undercarriage, nor did I make any kind of conclusions about that at the time. The testing that I did on scene from the various areas of the undercarriage, which I mentioned before, the tire flaps, the edge of the bumper, and the exhaust pipe, screamed negative for blood.
So
Lady, just say you
I
didn't.
know she wouldn't commit, but he did what he had to do.
Goodness.
So could you line up with any damage to the SUV? Did anything line up to the injuries on his arm?
No.
I couldn't say that. I don't know. I can't say that.
Why are you acting like this?
Did you find any blood on the car? No, we didn't. That didn't happen either.
I could tell you. I ain't no scientist, but I could have told you if he got hit by a car, those holes wouldn't have been left in his clothes.
But if he got hit by a car and he has blood on him, the thing that caused the blood should also have blood on it. So if he has all these blood stains on his clothing, the vehicle should also have blood stains on it because it caused the connection of the two created the blood. Yeah. Both things should have blood. Only one does.
That's where they messed up.
I don't understand. I want to call them. Did y'all think this through?
They didn't. Because to your point, a piece of that taillight or the taillight itself on the vehicle should have some type of blood on it. Somehow.
Show me the blood on something other than his body.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist.
Because he was bleeding. So
because he didn't get hit.
Yeah.
Okay, so now this is the cross-examination that Action Jackson does about the glass that this forensic scientist found, as well as the hair that she found.
That none of these pieces of apparent glass were embedded in the bumper. They weren't dug in, stuck into that hard plastic, correct?
No, I do not have that. I do not have that notation that they were embedded, just they were on the bumper.
As a matter of fact, they were physically perched on top of that hard plastic horizontal bumper, correct?
To my recollection, they were just sitting on the bumper, yes.
Okay. According to your notes, the glass pieces that we're looking at on the back of this bumper would have traveled, let's call it for round figures, about 60 miles in a blizzard before you saw it.
I don't know when the glass pieces were ended up on the bumper, so I couldn't say.
And of course, you knew that on February 1st, you knew a few days earlier, on the 29th, there had been a pretty significant snowstorm here in Massachusetts, correct?
Yes, I did have that information.
And that blizzard included high winds, freezing rain, snow, all the good stuff with a blizzard, correct?
I don't recall the exact weather conditions of the blizzard.
But irrespective, after all of that, whatever that was, you saw these 5 pieces just sitting perched on the top of the bumper, not embedded in any way, correct?
That's correct.
And you recovered those with little bitty tweezers, correct?
Yes.
This lady, just agree. Blizzard comes with wind, snow. Come on, and the weather is cold. Yes. But what killed me, he was like, the pieces of glass were perched.
I know he did.
On the bumper.
This vehicle went through a blizzard. Went through a blizzard. Drove 30 miles one way and 30 back.
Yep.
And these pieces of glass were perched on the back when it got to her.
On the back. So and if you're on the back of the vehicle, there's the wind isn't pushing you into the vehicle, it's pulling you away. You know how those bugs be on the front windshield just stuck?
Yes.
It's because the wind is smashing them against the car.
Well, maybe does it
But if you're on the back,
okay,
the wind is going around the car and blowing you off. So you're telling me the glass somehow grew hands or suction cupped the bumper and held on that whole time?
It's just it makes no sense. The glass makes no sense that it would just be sitting there, nice and ready, waiting for someone to pick it up.
Or the hair.
Well, okay,
the only
let's play
other
the hair,
hair
because I have a question about the hair. Let's play the hair.
You testified on direct examination that you also found a hair on that rear panel, the quarter panel of the car, correct?
Yes, at the time of the scene, I noted it was an apparent hair, correct.
And by the way, you found this at the same time that you found that you found the glass pieces as well.
That's correct.
So that hair potentially would have had to make that same 60-mile round trip in the same blizzard.
At the time, I don't know when that hair was deposited on the vehicle.
Right. So that hair looks, as we're looking at it, you will agree that hair looks like almost like a backward C, correct? In other words, it looks like it's more vertical than flat in that photograph, correct?
I would agree it looks like a C on the side of the car.
If we could go to Exhibit 173, Ms. Hartnett, does it look to you like between the first and the second photographs that hair has moved? It's no longer an inverted Z, but a C.
I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I see the two ends, which may still be making contact with the vehicle. I can't make that determination based on this photo.
Fair enough.
I would say from this photo, I honestly can't tell if those two ends are coming off the vehicle or touching the vehicle. I just can't make that determination.
Tully had informed us that the victim in this case was struck by a.
I won't lie to you.
Well, hold on, because I want to put that up to see. Did you notice the hairs, and do you agree with his assessment?
Yes.
That it flipped?
Yes.
Okay.
There's A, B, C is as easy as 1, 2, 3. They making things difficult. She's making things difficult. Oh, I can't tell you. Does it look like it flipped? Yes, it does look like it flipped. It was obviously a backward C. Now it looks like a regular C.
So the image on the left, if you're watching, I can clearly see the hair. The image on the right, I need somebody to point out where the hair is.
It's right there before the
in front of that little white thing.
Yes, and it's like it's a C. It's not as clear as that one.
Yeah. Is the white thing on top of the hair, or is it that line? It's almost like a line. That. Okay, so it's okay, those are in different positions for sure.
Yeah.
Here's what I have to say though. Hair pieces are tricky. I don't know if y'all have hair the way I have hair. It's in the hair I buy, especially. Hair be everywhere. Your kitchen, your sink, your bathroom floor, in your food sometimes. The hair gets everywhere. And so I actually, while the glass is ridiculous to me personally, hair, I could give you a little leeway. Because hair is everywhere. And he, having ridden in that car that night, you would presume having been in that car before that night, probably on a regular occurrence. I'm not surprised that they have hair. I actually think the hair was just a stupid piece of evidence to bring up because I actually think it doesn't prove anything. And I think hair traveling through 60 miles of a snowstorm, I'm not as pressed about a piece of hair making it through that. Hair be crazy. It's stubborn. It be in places it's not supposed to be, that you don't want it to be. You can go get a whole wax, and when you leave, you still be like, how did she miss this hair? How did the hair right here get missed? Hair is stubborn. Yeah. So I don't all the way agree with the hair angle. On top of, I don't believe it was ever linked back to him anyway.
The hair is not holding on to a vehicle for 60 miles in a blizzard, unless it's an eyelash with that glue on.
And that's what even eyelashes, they be everywhere.
But it has that glue on it. Those things be surviving everything. Now, this hair though, nah.
That's a little piece of hair.
It's a little piece of hair, and it looks like somebody could have walked by before she got there, and the hair came off a shirt, a beard, anything. And that's how that hair got there. That's how I feel. But that wasn't no hair that traveled
through
all of that. And it didn't come from him getting hit by the car. Well, I agree. And then the hair
yes, I agree with that. I agree. My larger point is that I think it was a stupid piece of evidence for them to waste their time on. I think it didn't prove anything, didn't help their case.
Yes, because if it is his, why wouldn't it be his? Exactly. Because it's his car. Exactly. His hair would be all over the vehicle. Yeah. In that case.
I agree.
Yeah. So yeah, they can burn the hair and the glass that's on the bumper.
I agree.
And throw those out because you playing us like some fools.
And then the last witness was another forensic scientist who basically her role is to put pieces of evidence together. So she is able, after all the pieces show up, she was able to essentially reconstruct the taillight, the broken taillight from Karen's car. So I'm not going to, I don't have any clips from that because that's essentially her testimony. I'm not sure it did much for either of them, as you know, in way of proving Karen's guilt or innocence. But the testimony that happened after her, which was, today while we are recording this, seems to be a bit more interesting. So I'll be working on some recaps for that. And that's essentially where we are. I read that the defense said that they need 4 days to do their presentation of their case. And they said that this trial should be wrapped by before July 4th, before 4th of July. They are like, we are going to be done. So I think the Commonwealth still has like 30 witnesses, and it's like, a lot of experts and police officers and people like that. So we'll see how entertaining may not be the appropriate word, but interesting these next few days of this case are. I'm sure that we're still waiting for Proctor. We are still waiting for Proctor.
I want them to bring Chloe up.
The dog?
And test her mouth the clothing to confirm that dog bit this man.
Can they do that at this point, though? It's been 2 years. They can't test.
Well, it's still the same.
They can't test her mouth for blood. What they gonna test her mouth for?
Saliva.
On his clothing?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe
DNA.
But that makes sense. I thought you were like, I don't know what I thought. Okay.
Check her nails to see if stuff was up underneath her nails. Something.
Yeah.
They didn't, man. Check. I want to confirm Chloe's okay. That's what I want. Is the dog still alive?
Chloe is probably somewhere living her best life away from
probably in the backyard, 6 feet deep. Talking about they rehoused the home,
hilarious.
Whatever it was.
Rehomed, I think is the appropriate word. So that's where we are today with this case. They were only supposed to go, I think 5 or 6 weeks was the initial time. We are beyond that time. But we'll be obviously following as long as it goes, as long as we can. So we will be back next week. And thank you again for joining.
Yes.
Follow me on I'm Not a Lawyer, but follow him on
GOOLZBY on Instagram, Building with Goose on YouTube, and Let Us Tell It on YouTube.